Welcome back again, another Saturday. I'm sorry we cannot be in our studio today because we are a little far from the studio. But today we have two of our great sons. We have Mr. Come back. All right. So thank you for always following us. We are on the Logan's Hour tonight. Today. So depending on which part of the world you are, if you are in the United States, if you are outside of the United States, I want to say welcome to the Logan's Hour. Like I said earlier, today we will have two of our young minds, Honorable Rich W. Basigia and Honorable Ivan Penner, district number 8, hopeful. So we're gonna be in conversation with these two young guys. Basically, if you saw the flyer or the flyers talk about, we'll be talking about the state of Liberia, and we will have other issues to include in the discussion, and we'll be discussing other issues of national concerns and other relevant issue that has to do with our community as a whole. So don't miss it. We have these guys. And you all know Mr. Rich W. Basigia. He's a former Deputy Minister for Technical Services at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. So this is actually going to be good. It's going to be a good conversation. You all know Mr. Ivan Peno as well. Um, he's the former president of the Liberian Association of Indiana, and currently he is the founder and the chairman on the board of Vision for Success Global. So, we have two great guys here tonight. And currently, Mr. Rich W. Basigia, he is the president of the Grand Bassa Association in the Americas, the Indiana chapter to that. So they are tough talking. We know them. We know Mr. Penner. Um, we know Mr. Basigia as well. So they're both going to be in studio shortly. So while they're going to be with us, we say thank you for always joining the Logan's Hour. Make this your home. Liberia belong to all Liberians, regardless of our differences, regardless of everything we may share on another note. But Liberia is the only country we cannot be deported from. This is your own show. This is Liberia thing. This is your own brother and friend. So on that note, I want to say welcome again. You are officially welcome to the Logan's Hour. I think you can see me. I do my kasha word. Today is Saturday. So we are not in our usual studio, that we have all of those stuff that entertain. So tonight it's gonna be hot. It's promise. Like I always said, Mr. Penner, he's the he's the former president of the Liberian Association of Indiana, and currently he's the current founder and board chair for Vision for Success Global. So maybe those of you that do not know what is Vision for Success Global, you can also ask the question. You can call or ask the question. You can ask Mr. Penner the basic question I have still. What what is Vision for Success Global? He can throw some light on that because it's important for us all to know what are these organizations stand for. Now, Mr. Penner, as you all know him, he's the former president of the Liberian Association. On just tonight, we will not be dealing with the Liberian Association, but if you have some questions of burning concerns that you would love to ask any of my guests here tonight, you are welcome. You can also send in your text. We're gonna read your text, and other than that, you can call if they will have the time because, like I said, this show is slated for just an hour. So, if you miss the 1 hour time involved, trust me, you're gonna be totally out. So we have Mr. Penn already in our studio. He's waiting to be brought on. And we have Mr. Rich W. Basigia will be joining Mr. Pennon to share the platform with him shortly. So let me just go to Mr. Pennon and bring him on while we have Mr. Basigia is getting prepared to join this conversation. So let me get Mr. Pennon in. How are you, Mr. Pennon? How are you today?
How you doing, Chief? How's the body?
Man, can't complain. We're on our usual thing.
I know. How's
Yeah.
Saturday?
Man, the Saturday going. I was in another location and I wanted to avoid interference. That's why I have to change my location. So that's why you see we are a little late.
Okay, no problem, boss. I
Uh,
appreciate.
yeah. But I really do appreciate you, man, for coming in. And our race is also coming in as well. And Race want to talk about burning issues in Liberia, and you have a stake too. Because just a second, Mr. Bassi, guys. Mr. Bassi, yeah, but join the conversation now. Can you hear me? Let me- All right, sorry for that. We were just in a little chat out there with Mr. Basigia, so he trying to actually change his location. We had this set up for 3 o'clock, and because 3:30, man, he had something else came into his plans, so he actually have to adjust his location before he can go into this tonight. So what's up, Mr. Penner? So before Mr. Bati got join us, I think we could just have the conversation go with you. Wherever he joined, that's where he gonna start from. What do you think?
All the man is the
Yeah, he's the
former
me. Yeah.
former deputy minister of information. So, and as you said, he has some burning issues concerning the state of affairs of the country, and some of us who are looking at it from a more critical lens and wanting the best for Liberia, we will come in with some critical approach and awaken the mind of those who have the ability to think beyond their current situation rather than being constantly sentimental to the real problem that they are faced with, and for them not to be in the constant habit for being taken as jokers and people who have low mentality, as most of the want to be politicians consider them, that you don't really have to give them anything much, and they themselves have an undeveloped mind, so you wait last minute to time and then give them what they want. And if you can negotiate their future for $30 and $20 during election time, I think some of them will be okay with that. So some of these things is very annoying most
Mm-hmm.
especially to some of us who have seen the better side of life, and we want our people to have these shared exposures to the livelihood of what a country should inherit. I think it's time that we look at things from a much more progressive lens. So if people will reason, then I think some of the informations that will be disseminated at this platform, I think it will be taken into serious consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Penna. Thank you for joining us tonight as well. I think if you know Mr. Penna, he's one of the critical minds out there. Um, Mr. Basiga would join us. He said he was just trying to change his location. So, I think anyway, he gonna join us. He just sent a text message, so that's why I was looking up. All right, so let's just start with you first before we go into the when Mr. Basiga joined us. So, I know you have been here. A lot of people know you. And a lot of people that have followed us know who is Mr. Penham, but just for the sake of other people who watching on YouTube, because I was surprised the other day to see some of the white folks from my church, and they said they followed the show on YouTube. So, for better introduction, can you please just introduce yourself to those following us?
Yeah, Alvin T. Pennon is a native of that hails from Liberia, and is in full alignment with the purpose and progress of Liberia. Uh, I'm a nationalist. Uh, from the U.S. setting, I am a moderate politician. I work as a strategist to the RNC, and I work as a former deputy chief for crime prevention task force. I work as a deputy chief for for crime prevention task force, and then work as a patrol officer for ADM enforcement. I also work with martial investigation. So are they preventive measure when it comes to crime? And I also did administration. I did the American government, dissecting its functionality as to how it affect not just the American society, but society beyond America, because America technically run almost a huge percentage of the democratic affairs globally. So we want to know at which strength they negotiate their interests. So some of that led us into knowing about them, and other knowledge that we have acquired through other means. So I have served as the former president of the Liberian Association. I also serve as a member of the executive council at EULA. I now serve on the autonomous commissions that has to do with the Liberia Diaspora Development Fund. I work with other committees to push agenda at the EULA level. And then I'm also part of some sectional organizations within the Liberian sector and other organizations within the United States. And I'm also a member of how you call uh, the society group, Hope Society.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much, Mr. Penner, for that great introduction. So, like today, we were to talk mainly about issue confronting Liberia, and our conversation basically is supposed to be about Liberia. So, I know this is a huge topic here tonight, the issue that has to do with the bicentennial. So, we're just going to open the floor up to you. You're just going to give up your kind of perspective about the bicentennial and some historical tie that you know that links to the bicentennial. So, this is your question right here. It's from the president annual message. The president said about Satania 200 years ago, some of our forebears returned to our shores after enduring 4 centuries of bondage in slavery and helped to form this nation called Liberia. What is your take on this bicentennial ceremony that is about to take off just in few days?
It's good to appreciate the government of Liberia and the people of Liberia to promote its governmental agenda. But at the same token, we have reached an age now that we have to deal with the actual history of Liberia. Now, with the exception of the formations of the republic that is now the nation Liberia, there were people also that were met there. So we also have to take that into consideration and see, are we appreciating those people who withstand the violent takeover of the people who returned to the nation at the time? So these are some of the questions. So it's about telling the people the historiocentric history rather than the historiographic aspect. The good side of it is there were people who returned. They used some approach to encroach upon, some through the means of negotiation, that they purchased the land and they inhabit it, establish a government that led the people for a good amount of time. So I will not want to do it on that. I want to do it on the authenticity of the information. So that pertains to the history of Liberia. We cannot continue to give our people the wrong information or the modified aspect of the informations that it has. Running with it all over the place that we are descendants of American free slave. I have a different opinion to that, but I do appreciate the aspect of the government recognizing those people who came and brought in the central government routing system.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Penna. So, um, just on the same bicentennial issue, my next question to that is, I know you've been following Facebook. I know you're a public figure, so you have to follow Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even TikTok. Because once you want to serve, it doesn't matter if this platform for kids or what, but the information that comes from these platforms, they're all valuable to you because you're going to scrutinize them and see how well you can put mechanism into place to see if we can make it more better. Of late on Facebook, there's this information going on about the Liberian government inviting foreign musicians to go and perform on the bicentennial, and other people see it to be wrong because they expect the bicentennial to be all Liberian affairs to demonstrate and show our culture to the outside world. When our forefathers came back to Liberia, what they saw in Liberia and those kind of cultural experiences. So, what do you make of the Liberian government inviting P Square to come and perform at the bicentennial ceremony?
Yeah, you have to look at government with the exception of the bicentennial, and you will want to categorize it as Liberians affairs. Then you have to look at the people who you claim that returned to Liberia. Every one of them was not from that particular land. Some of them were Nigerians as well. And some of them came from different parts of Africa that form part of those who returned to that particular area. And some of them became agents that you refer to as presidents to run the central governing aspect. I don't want to be specific about which one of them, but some of them hail from Nigeria. Now, when you look at governmental functions, you have to understand that it entails inclusiveness. And if you are talking about the history, and Liberia is supposed to be one of the countries that Africa looks up to when it comes to leadership, and those who started leadership from the initial stage in terms of the democratic approach, then it has to take a more inclusive route when it has to do with bringing people together and recognizing your establishment. So we all can look at it. People may have their opinion and say that why is it that only certain people should celebrate the success or the history of Liberia, but Liberia has its own uh, inter intermingling relationship with the continent of Africa. So that means that you have people coming from Ethiopia and other areas that have interest in Liberia, that had interest in the establishment of Liberia then, and still have interest, including people of the Republic of Ghana. So all of these people have interest in the national affairs of Liberia and the historicity of Liberia. So you have to take all of these into consideration. So it's government, and I don't think people have to be personal about it. Liberians should be receptive, and we should take a more inclusive approach.
All right. We all need to be inclusive. That is the voice of Mr. Alvin Pennon, former president, Liberal Association of Indiana.
And with the P Square and with the P Square participations within the historical event of Liberia, to be precise, this particular upcoming program, I think it will serve as inspiration to other artists, and it will give a success story of where these guys started from and where they are now. Because a couple of years back, when we all were still young, we saw P Square coming from nothing, and they are now becoming, or they are now something to talk about globally. So that alone is a message of inspiration. So we shouldn't just look at them coming to perform. We should look at the impact that they have on the continent and globally, and how they have been, and what their success story is, how impactful it can be to some of the young artists, their discipline, and all of these things. So the artists in Liberia should look at it from that lens rather than just looking at it from them overshadowing them.
You, you, you are right. You are right. So now, looking at what happening at follow Kathy Gang Adams and the rest of the other folks. They are in conversation and making confusion with DJ Blue for accepting P Square and the other folks. So, if you have any advice for the rest of the musicians who feel they have been abandoned and left out, what would be your personal advice to them?
I will speak to the intelligence to reason, and just as what I just mentioned, they should take the success story into consideration. They should take some of the discipline that these guys are brought to the table to bring them to where they are. They should take into consideration the courage. They should take into consideration a more inclusive approach. It's like when Liberia started, I was sitting with a couple of people yesterday, and I said that Liberia and Liberian music going to take over not just Liberia and Africa, but it's going to take over the entire world. And people say, how? Then I start to give some uh, historical evidence of some of these countries who were nothing musically, and now they are something. So Liberia should be more calm in their approach towards some of these things and look at it from a much bigger picture. You understand? So that they can have a developing mind. They shouldn't just look at it from a virtual point or virtual point. They should be a visionary. They should look at it from a visionary point, which is the supernatural aspect of seeing things. Then you can see yourself at a more upper level of things and understand why they're happening at a more physical level. So Liberians, musicians who are still striving and still not recognized globally, P Square can be an example. I'm not a fan of P Square, but I'm just using it from a more uh, divine view so that they can understand. So I will speak to their understanding.
Okay, that's fine. That's a fair one. That's why I always like your approaches when it comes to these kind of critical questions. So we have joined with us now is Mr. Rich W. Basigat, the former deputy minister for technical services at the Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. And he's the current president of the Liberian Baza, the United Baza Association in the Americas for the Indiana chapter. So, welcome to the Lookings Hour, Mr. Bazigia.
Hey Phil, how you doing?
My brother, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Hey, Mr. Chairman of the Board of Directors of Vision for Success Global, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Nigga, Juanita.
God, it's unfair news. Yeah, but thank you for having me, Phil, and it is a pleasure being on. My name is Rex W. Barsigia, and I worked for one of the greatest female president in the world, and Liberia's most celebrated and decorated president ever in the history of Liberia. And so, thanks for the invite. It is my pleasure to be on. And when questions have been asked, we will delve into the necessary matters and things that are troubling our society in Liberia.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Mr. Basigia. So, because we were discussing the bicentennial ceremony that is to take place in Liberia, so we just go straight to you. What is your take on the bicentennial ceremony that is to take place in Liberia shortly?
The first thing, Phil, I don't know the guys read that the guys that are in charge right now and the current leadership led by President George Weah. I don't really know whether they know the true definition of the bicentennial, or is it something that just erupted and people had in mind that they want to have party, or they want to have jamboree, or they want to celebrate a day that they have no manifesto about? The bicentennial should be something of 200 years. That's the key thing of the bicentennial. So fortunately for George Weah, he took over and maybe they make their own analysis on numbers. And and it has been 200 years has gone. And somebody later got and said, we have to go to Jamaica Resort and celebrate. And then immediately they had things placed together, the itinerary and Jamboree starts and people having fun. Um, I have not really felt the essence of it in Liberia currently. Maybe others, especially if you are addicted seditious or somebody who really don't understand what's happening in the society. All I'm seeing is that there's some allotment, even funds, government national funds that are being utilized right now. I tell you for sure there will be no records to show financial prudency, because what's happening right now is a complete exploitation of the finance of the country. The guys are dividing into different sectors amongst themselves. The Minister of State, Little Jefferson Koji, and the rest of the other people, everybody just roaming around with our country's resources with no national plan for this bicentennial. So it is a day that people should respect, but the essence of the day is not Phil. It's not showing the kinds of things that we should feel that the world should know. After 200 years, we got George Weah, a celebrity. See what happened to the bicentennial. Who are the people that will show memories? Who are the people that will show that recognition? Can you really gather something from the bicentennial except George Weah, which is a celebrity? The biggest person at the bicentennial is George Weah. He's a celebrity, and because of that, everybody going towards that. Um, I learned that the guy we acted in coming to America, he was in Liberia.
Yeah.
I can tell you, like I was talking with somebody, it might be because George Weah is a celebrity. He picked the chance to go and meet with George Weah. Both celebrity met. The essence of he going to Liberia, you won't see the truism. You won't really get the true picture. Later, did I hear that he was out of the country? What did he do to Liberia? What was the impact? He had a lecture with the president. They interacted. There was an itinerary. Afterwards, the old man got in the plane. He back in America. Is that the essence of the 200 years celebration, the bicentennial? So, I mean, I'm not feeling it. I guess Liberians are not feeling it. And the major thing of which I feel that they are not feeling it because the people are hungry, Phil. The people are hungry. The economy is bad. The people are starving, Phil. I tell you for real, the people are starving. The people are hungry. The society is bad of insecurity is to a highest peak. How can you have a bicentennial like somebody having a birthday party when your people going to bed 5 p.m.? The country is bad of instability is to a highest peak. When we were in charge, the country was stable. The economy was not 100%, but our people were doing better. Our children could go to school without their mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters worrying about anything. Nowadays, if you send a child in the market, the mother have to follow the child in the market. The aunt have to go and stand somewhere in the corners because the child might like to be murdered. The society is polluted, it is infested. Things that happened in Liberia years ago, and you go celebrate bicentennial? What happened when the children being raped, gang raped, and you celebrating bad Centennial? What happened when our people are suffering and starving? The children cannot pay their school fees. Every day, our girls and brothers and sisters are asking for cent wave. You know the story, Phil. You celebrating bicentennial. What's happening in that country is something that the people don't respect. Our people and their rights, their vote, and the enthusiasm they have for the democracy that they urge to protect. They are not respecting that. They're celebrating bicentennial for Jefferson, Coachy, and the rest of the other guys roaming in the street, driving the best of cars. I'm not against on what they do, but insecurity, the economy, infrastructure, everything about Liberia gone backwards. It gone backwards. Like like 25 years ago, leads to expect 12 years when Ellen took over. All of the policy prescriptions, the GSC, the LSCC, the LERTI, the PC, the procurement center, all these areas of good governance led by former interim head Edmund Sawyer, everything gone backwards, Phil. Phil, you know, you read every day, you check the maps, you do your own analysis. But again, we have a society that polluted, infested, looking at a celebrity. They champion towards the glory of the celebrity. They see the black diamond in Africa. They think that Liberia have qualified for 1996 African Cup of Nations. That's why our people thinking about there. The people celebrating the day that George Weah scored on Egypt. That's what they're celebrating in the mansion. That's what they're doing there. Their minds are being corrupted. The people have infested the mind with the wrong ideology. The bicentennial should not be celebrated because our society is not to the standard expected of a leadership. Things are gone bad, Phil. Things are gone bad. Things are gone bad. Things are gone bad.
Thank you, Mr. Basic. Yeah. So, Mr. Panel, just watch it because I told you, man, you are going to come with fire. We even go to the real topic that has to do with the government. I just asked him on the bicentennial. The man is on fire. Trust me. So we will just go straight to the discussion here because we're talking about critical issues in Liberia and the problems we are confronted with. So the president said this in his annual statement, in his annual report here. The president said this: based on the report, I can state categorically and with confidence that the state of our economy is stable and growing, and that the state of nation is peaceful and strong. What do you make of that, Mr. Penn? First fact, I'm to Mr. Bazigia.
Yeah, but you have to understand the format of the leadership of the president, and you also have to take into consideration the reception from the people and the national approach in terms of their ideas and support towards the president speech or State of the Nation address. Now, let me be frank with you. We have to be able, like I was telling you earlier on, we have to be able to tell the people the truth. It's time that we get away from the pathological aspect of addressing issues of national concerns that pertains to the livelihood of the people. Now, when you talk about the state of security of the country, and you even mentioning the safety and then the economic aspect of the country, when you speak of national security, you're speaking of the health, you're speaking of the person's protections, you're speaking of the educational sectors, you're speaking of the economic and the agricultural sector. At which level are we doing
Mr. Penna is okay, go ahead. I'll tell you your freezing.
Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, at which level are we doing our best? So because of that, you want to bring that on the microscope and say, all right, the president said the economic is moving strong or will move strong. What procedures do they have in place? What policies, what laws, what enactment do they have in place that will help boost in those economic sector? Then you also have to look at the security. Now, when it reaches 5 o'clock in Liberia, I'm talking about PM, people are even scared to get outside. People are scared to even hold the phone walking in a broad daylight. Then when you look at how people sleep and how they build their houses, some of them do not even have air passage. You got to pull power wire this place. This one, even when your house catch on fire for you to escape, it's a problem. You're not even living in peace. Now, when you talk about justice, justice is our peace. Peace is the presence of justice. At which percentage do Liberians have justice? What kind of justice is he talking about? So these are things that we can discuss through a more critical lens and see what it is. I don't want to say that what he's saying he is not factual because the people are receptive. Because when you speak of Liberian politics and you want to see as to how they view their political setting, these are people who give credence to people who politics have given the platform to for them to present their evil and wicked plan. Liberians are receptive to these kind of behaviors. So now, when we look at it through the logical means, are Liberians actually benefiting from the shared resources? So these are questions that we need to ask, and we have to address it with more facts rather than looking at it from a or how you call it institutional political view or party sentiment view. We have to look at it from what you call is called identity politics, is where we set all of these radical approaches aside and face our society with more tangible reasons to address the affairs of the state of the nations and its unfoldings in terms of how not just Liberians perceive it or look at it, but people from the extended view, how do they consider us in terms of integrity and standard as to how we present our issue and handle our affairs? That's my view.
Thank you, Mr. Former President, Liberian Association of Indiana. Now we have been joined by Mr. Clifford Russell. Mr. Clifford Russell, can you please introduce yourself, my dear brother?
Thank you very much. Like you already said, my name is Clifford Russell, and I opted and asked to have come on this show tonight so that you know the kind of situation that we face in Liberia. The first thing here is that you cannot see me clear.
Yeah, that's true.
And the reason you are not seeing me clear is because
That is
there is
practical.
a lack of electricity in the country right now, which should be a very major focus of the government. We should be a major focus of the government. But the government is not taking such matter very serious. And electricity is a security issue. Can you see how dark my background is?
Yeah.
This is a serious security issue. That's my introductory portion. That's my introductory portion as to why I have come on the show. Now, I heard my the colleague there lay some basis as to why he thinks that we is a good president. And as you follow Rex Bassige's analysis and all of what he said, this president is not a president who is actually seeking the welfare of the Liberian people. This president is a mistake. This president was elected as a mistake, probably because people thought that giving you the Unity Party an additional 6 years, who means that we are bringing back into play the story of the True Win Party. And because people did not listen to our advices, because people refused to honor our thoughts, most especially experienced thought from people who were looking into the future, we find ourselves to where we are today. This is Liberia. Liberia over the last couple of years has not been able to move forward. Liberia over the couple of years has remained the same, and not just relatively the same, but we have gone backward from things that were being built, most especially structural institutions that was set up by the past regime.
All right, so Mr.
Nobody
Russell,
needs to tell you so.
let me just ask you this question again before we get to Mr. Riz Basigia. The president said this in his annual message here, what you can see on the screen. The president said, in short, the economy is stable, growing, and the state of the nation is peaceful and strong. Do you think our nation is peaceful and strong, considering all of what is going on right now? Young Bob and Sotomai. Go ahead.
This statement is a presidential recitation. That particular statement is a presidential recitation. But when presidents do make those recitations, their recitations are based on positive references. Manaseli also made those recitations. But her recitations were based on positivity. She had references for her positivity. But you can dilute. Your very self can drop up from all of the issues that are happening in country right now to understand that the presidential recitation made by GMW was fake. It is fake. It is fake. The economy is not stable. There is no positive growth rate. This is the highest time ever of unemployment in this country. More youth are on the streets ever than before. Nothing seems to be going. Anti-graft institutions that was set up to fight corruption are now have become a glorified political institution where we've placed partisans instead of professionals. The FIU has been replaced by a partisan. LSCC has been led by partisans. And that tells you and speaks clearly to the issue as to why Bill Torre has not been indicted up to today's date. So you can see all those things. That particular statement made by the president, as I said, the presidential recitation is a fake analysis and does not have any positive reference, most especially in current time with the Liberian economy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Russell. Thank you so much. The man came in very firing. Avi, you are sitting on here with tough Unity Party people.
We're firing people. Mr. Logan, I think
Yes,
I
sir.
heard him say that I made a statement in support of the president and his presidency.
Okay, go ahead. Make that clarity before we go to Mr. Basigia.
I did not, my brother, I did not tell you that President George Weah is doing excellent at his job. What I said was, after the speech was given, look at the reactions of the people, see the receptions of the people, see the approach of the people. What route did they take to kind of debunk what he said through actions? You understand? All of these things are necessary because when people sit, they look at the citizens' reactions and the logical approach towards how leadership is being implemented. But if we are receptive, I see that you spoke eloquently. How eloquent are we using our expertise to make sure that we influence people in a more positive route that will create the necessary change towards what we are faced with in terms of things not moving in a more positive directions. So we can add our frustration through a more logical approach by influencing people, by telling them what is necessarily appropriate that they need to do, rather than us using the same old radical route that has no positive impact. That's where I was coming from to tell you that I will take the president's speech into consideration and takes the reactions of the people into consideration. Because it's the people that elect the leaders. So as misinformed they are, and disinformed they are, and cowardly they are in terms of their approach, because you can be as angry as you are today, tomorrow, some of your peers and your colleagues, when they are giving $2,000 or $3,000 or even $10,000, they bend automatically. So that means that you do not have a determined and committed will that some serious-minded people can take you into consideration in terms of huge percentage as to discussing the national affairs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Penner. So we'll go to Mr. Rich W. Basigia, former Deputy Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. and current president of the United Basel Association, the Indiana chapter. So, Mr. Basigia, this is the question right here. The president, in short, say the economy is strong and the country is peaceful. What is your take on this one? I think you are muted, sir.
Did I hear you say peaceful?
Yeah, he said based on the report, his annual report,
I
I can
mean,
state categorically
yeah,
and with confidence that the state of our economy is stable and growing, and that the state of the nation is peaceful and strong.
I mean, the president, for some reason, I think Liberians, they did this to themselves. Liberians are responsible for what happened to them. You given an option for leadership. Is this why you're going to take? You got great minds on the ballot box. You put the picture aside, put the characteristic of the human we're dealing with. We are talking about a country here. Is this the choice they make? And on the contrary, if this person tried to make mockery, that's complete mockery. The last time I checked, 4 auditors were killed. 4 auditors were killed. The same reason why the country is the way it is, jeopardized. These are the same reasons like Clifford referenced, but I can't even see Clifford correctly because he's in the darkness. Insecurity for electricity too. The last time I checked, our people are ravished in the street. They never used to go to bed. I mean, when we were in charge, we gonna stay at old folks. We gonna go to some there's a bar on the FE. People go to bed at 2 a.m. Phil. Nowadays, our people are going to bed 5 p.m. People that above 18, and the president is making mockery out of our citizens. You go on to a stage to address the Liberian people, to present your annual message, and the president of Liberia tells the nation that the country is peaceful, our economy is good. What's the analysis that he make? What's the yardstick? What's the measuring? Was he making mockery of a group of people at the same time when he goes to a museum and sing music? Was he making mockery of the people at the same time when they're having a content meet and the highest honor of football that had been bestowed on him was diminished on the soccer field? Was he making mockery of a group of people that went to the ballot boxes in Tinker Village in rehab, where you lived before the people were jamming to the ballot boxes to make this man president? You know what happened in Kenya? People working on each other to make this man. He goes to the annual message and tell the Liberian people they're living in peace when their children cannot be fed. What's his definition of peace? Because a lack of gun sounds? What's his definition of peace? Because the guys are not in Butuo? What's his definition of peace? Because the guys are not in Grand Bassa? What's his definition of peace? Because our people resources are not being looted? What's the definition of peace? Because we are not touching the bed on our heads? What's the definition of peace? Because our people in Basigata are not running from there to Riverside? So do you see the limitation of this president? Can you realize that he's heartless? Can you realize that our friend from the ERU were murdered in Grand Gide? Alex, my friend from the ERU, he was murdered. A commissioner of police, senior police officer, Joshua tells you, he tells the Liberian people that the country is peaceful, the country is stable. When a commissioner of police, former boss of ERU, a gun carry man, can die on duty, and the state of affairs was still running that day. No feeling, no humanity, no slight conscience. And the president tells you that the country is peaceful, the economy is good. How can the voice of a president be so humiliating to the people that voted for him? I see no sense of remorse. How can you tell the people that the country is peaceful, Phil? The country cannot be peaceful when the children cannot pay their school fees to Iraq International Christian Academy where I graduated from. The country cannot be peaceful when St. Isidore students' margin are dropping. St. Lutheran, the students' numbers are dropping. St. Teresa Convent, CW, UMU, the universities, the students are dropping. They cannot pay their colleges fee. They cannot pay their university fees. The last time I checked, riots were all over the country. The children were burning tires. The children were roaming in the streets. 3 days demonstration in the country that George Weah says it is peaceful. They were tear gassing our neighbors. They were tear gassing our sisters. They were tear gassing our brothers and sisters in the streets because they requested to go to school. Their school fees were not paid simply because the president has made a commitment. He goes to the legislature. He lied to the people. He deceived the citizens. Elections are nearing. And George Weah now being duped into Samuel Toure and a very inept McGill to sacrifice the consciences of our people. You see what happened in Liberia, Phil? The wrong things I keep repeating itself. George Weah made the same mistakes since he won elections. He never recovered from his mistakes. He keep lying to the people. He keeps saying the wrong things. He's living in denial, Phil. He knows that everything about Liberia is wrong since he took over, but he's living in denial. The country is not stable. Our brothers and sisters cannot feed themselves. The insecurity rate, like I told you, is very, very high. The last time I listened to the news, some group of guys called themselves general, unemployed by the government. They were going to arrest a city lawmaker, Phil. Did you listen to that day?
Yep, I followed
They
that.
called themselves general. They were going to arrest a city lawmaker. Are you kidding me? And George Weah says the country is stable.
Mm-hmm.
He addresses that to the legislature. When a guy named General Power, leading group of men, to represent the Yake Koruma's house, and George Weah tells us, Liberians, tell the world that Liberia is stable. Does that make sense? And George is telling you that the environment that we live in today, our people cannot eat in the day. Now, my understanding from people that I have talked to, they are cooking 5 p.m. now.
Oh my gosh.
There's no breakfast. They don't have the 3 meals. They don't have it.
You just
Salary
gotta
doesn't
eat and
come
go to
on
bed.
time. Our people are backwards. Our people are being robbed out of the kind of environment they're supposed to live in. Everything about Liberia resembles George Weah in the negative. Everything about Liberia currently resembles George Weah in the negative. And George Weah trying to convince the legislatures. He has now told you when last the country increased in terms of GDP in 2018, when Ellen left, when we transitioned, we were at 3 and marching towards 5. Incrementally, we hit 7% by statistics. George Weah told the legislature they are expected. Listen to the grammar. Listen to the key grammar.
So let's just get to that part because he said it in his annual speech. He said,
yes,
despite the challenges of dealing with the COVID pandemic,
right,
the economy grew by 3.6% from negative 3% in 2020. And growth this year is expected to be 4.7%. Because I remember when George Weah took over from Madam Salif, it was 4.7%. So if you drop to 3.5%, taking it back to 4.7%, how is that a breaking news?
Tell me about it. Phil, you make your analysis. You guys who know all the economic tricks, you make your analysis. Put the data and factor it in and make the retrogression. Make the regression, let people see. George Weah is telling you he took over a state with 4.7% of incremental GDP. Now he tells the Liberian people, in 2020, we were at negative. Why did we go to negative? Because we had leadership deficit. We had somebody who lacks the capability to change the narrative. Instead of us increasing upward, we decline to a lower margin of the graph. And he goes to the legislature. He smiles at the people, living in denial and tell the Liberian people that the language is we are expected.
Yeah, we are expected.
So there is no analytical data in view. It is a rhetorical statement being made by a gentleman, written by a group of corrupt guys who have manipulated the society. Mr. Chairman, the society is bad, the place is polluted. Sometimes it hurts me. I like how I'm living right now in private sector. I feel good. Yesterday, we had a burden to change course. We were putting our necks on the line on policy prescriptions. Methodology was implemented yesterday. Today, it is all about manipulation, deception, and lies. They go at the place and make George Weah the first person on the line. And when people are gullible, when they see George Weah, they get excited. They think they've seen the Black Diamond return to Liberia. When they see George Weah, they think they're watching a game the PSC Germany and AC Milan, Monaco versus Chelsea. They get excited. And the streets get packed. And Samuel Tuer manipulates the finances and create a different picture of the country's economy. That's what annoys me. George doesn't know the figure. Phil, George doesn't know the numbers. Samuel to arrest the numbers and tell George. When Ellen Johnson Sylvie used to report to the legislatures, she would give finance in review, check her records. She would report on the state of affairs of the country's economy, financial statement in review, data analysis, informing the world how far she has come. When she took over Liberia with $80 million budget, when Ellie made the presentation to the national legislature, the budget has already increased to 500 million. You do the mathematics. I'm not a mathematician. You do the mathematics. Unfortunately, we have a leader who has been manipulated by Samuel Tuer and inept McGill, has no knowledge to be a minister of state, and he's one of those managing the resources of the country. And he is supposed to be a government official. So, Phil, the country is insecure. The economy is bad. We left a system in place. The hydro of the country was set up. Electricity that Clifford talks about. We rebuilt the hydro. Check our records. We rebuilt the hydro. Why aren't they using it? Why aren't they utilizing it? At the 51st ECOWAS Summit, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, she was cheering. And it was a turnover time. When she was cheered of the ECOWAS, we made a deal with the Mano River Union to electrify some of the closest area to Ivory Coast, to Guinea, and Sierra Leone. Why are they not utilizing that? Where are the manifesto? They're sharing our glory. They are not implementing what we put into place. Productivity at its lowest. Government officials are inept. They lack the capability to run the state. Boy Scouts are going to Jamaica Scouts, and people are celebrating George Weah daily like a demon god and worshiping. We never worship Ellen. We never. She was told the hard truth. Security on Ellen wasn't 100%, but our people could go to bed 2 a.m. Phil. Our people could go to bed 2 a.m. Phil. Our people could go to bed. I used to be at the bar on the airfield
Samoa
because I
Ba.
lived on the old road back then. And I would sit right outside and chilling. Though as a government official in my little different corner, drinking my water, watching, because I was collecting the data to inform the reasoning of the national security, so that when I take the microphone to explain to my people, I will let you know that I was sitting rest ceiling. And the entertainment center closed by 2 a.m. That's the security. Today, the entertainment center is closed by 2 p.m. The people go to bed by 5 p.m. Our brothers and sisters, they are at high risk, very high risk. If you don't know, the CDC-led government have mortgaged the country. All of the monies they're taking overseas, by the time we shall have realized, Liberia will be indebted to the whole world. You guys are the economists. By the time you collect your data, Phil, Liberia will be indebted to the whole world. By the time Joseph Boakai takes over as president, we will be owing the whole world. It will be detrimental, but we will fix it. We will make it better. Phil, the country is bad. The country is bad.
Mr. Minister, let me come here a little bit.
Come
I
in, Mr. Pena.
understand. Can I come here,
Yeah,
Mr. Ho?
come in, Mr. Pena.
Yeah, I understand the frustration that my brother has, and his approach towards that is great. But you see, when a country is facing such a problem, what we need to do is that we come to the table, the drawing table, and bring forth a more reasonable idea that will help empower our people. And I see that he mentioned a lot of stuff, and he mentioned the ineptness of some of the government officials, including the abuse of power, the malfunctions of the president and his position. Now, what we need to do is to make sure that we have people who elect these people. What is their mindset? How informed are they to make decisions? Because democracy, in its own actual definition, is an informed and engaged will. If people continue to elect people based on misinformation and the wrong reasons or wrong purpose, then that means that we will continue to resort to what we have. The issue here is we should not just look at the presidency. I understand that we have a unitary government, but Liberians are of the huge percentage in terms of opinion. We have what you call the elusive approach towards presidency. It's called the presidential illusion, where we feel that the president can do any and everything in terms of his power of control. No, we have people in positions from all the way down to the local government, including to the executive branch of government. So if each and every one know their positions and know how to function properly, I don't think these things will be in place, because we speak of law and order. The very law and order, if we ourselves, the citizens, do not respect the law, you think the law will wake up from people and respect itself?
No.
It's like, come on. It's give to unto others what should be done. What you do to the law is what the law is going to do. When you respect the law is going to be respected and it's going to be fully implemented. The reasons why I'm saying this is we have a lot of initiative and engagement on the ground. We speak to the mind and intelligence of the people. And some of these people, when we were there and running and hiding from guns and concealing our identity and one of you living in fear, is the same thing that some of them going through, but not the way we went through it. They're going through it because they themselves voted against their own interests. So they needs to be informed. Regardless of whether they're going to elect some of us, we have the truth need to be told. We have to tell them the truth. We have to tell them the essence of decisions making. The reasons why the international community and other serious government systems do not take us seriously, because the strength of democracy comes from the people. If you monitor the interview with Henry Costard and Alan White, when Henry asked him, well, Mr. White, what do you think the the approach towards bringing foreclosures to the mayhem that Liberia faced. He said it's the Liberian people. From that perspective, he was speaking from what you call the popular memorandum. Is when the people themselves understand their situation collectively with logical reasoning, they move. That's the essence of power. You move in the directions that your power is directed to suit your benefit. So I'm not going to be part of the saying or the approach that are going to judge the fish for inability of climbing the tree. I know very well fish not supposed to climb tree. So if we put people in the wrong position and expect them to do better, I think we will be doing wrong. Some of these guys only have relevance because of the positions they're in. I'm not talking about the president now. I'm talking about largely in the governmental
Yeah,
sector.
yeah,
If
you're right.
today, tomorrow, you remove some of them, they are nobody. They do not have societal relevance and they do not have societal influence outside governmental influence. You understand? And in leadership, that's not what you do. You let people who have societal influence, who makes decisions outside the power of legality that can make people move and channel their interest and agenda in a much more appropriate way. So since we are from a societal point, I think that it's time that we engage our people logically, breaking down things, not using the more political rhetoric approach, telling them from a more factual standpoint that this is the problem we face. We have lived in countries that we ourselves should not go through what you are going through. You are being economically deprived, and because of that, you are drained. And look at the conditions
Mhm.
and the situations you are faced with. The locked doors. Even if you are supposed to be employed, your salary is economically unprofitable. You are living in a rat and rust infested environment, slums, and then people come and compensate you to integrate you into the very slum by giving you toilet, they call it fresh or running toilet, to make you comfortable in that kind of slum. These are things that we have to take a more logical approach. I understand the frustration, but we have to impound on the knowledge of reasonings of our people. I don't think anyone created by the omnipotent do not have the ability to tap into the supernatural understanding as to how things should function and what they want best for themselves. And as we also not leaving Christianity and religions out of it, there are a lot of people that pray onto the spirit every day but do not speak to the spirit and do not tap into spirituality. So all of these things have to play part of our governance system. And I think we have to engage our people. And Mr. Minister, I understand your influence and I understand your frustration. You can channel those things through a more informative route. We can speak to our people. We got men. We can move. And from what you said, from my technical view, a system like this need what you call massive disruption to reset the country on the trajectory of realignment. But it's something else that we have to find a room to discuss. Is our people ready for that? They don't have to be ready for that, but are we ready to support this kind of approach? So these are things that we have to take into consideration when we're moving forward as or energetic Liberians. Now we are older boys and
Mhm.
we're looking up to the younger generations to understand how things should be done in their interests. Thank you very much. I will
All right.
yield
So
and then
that's
allow him
true.
to continue.
So go ahead, Mr. Basik. Yeah, you can just end before we go to the next one quick. You are muted. You are muted.
Chairman Penn talking about moving our people into action. I mean, that's the same like H. Bama formula. Um, I don't know. I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, he already muted. He already cut out.
Okay. That's the same like H, that the H. Bama formula will say. It's that a little thing down the road, just a little thing, needs to spark up, and that will be the change of regime. I mean, he was rhetorical, but I mean, when he spoke years after, something spark up. Why was it? Whether that the thing that spark up produced the dividends of change and we have arrived to where we are today, it is something that history has to resolve. But I'm sure and optimistic that Liberians will move in actions. Liberians themselves will move in action someday. There is a revolution at hand because the people are desperately hungry, Phil. The
Mm-hmm.
people, their resolution amongst themselves, they are in a silent, resolute mood. They're not in the as usual. Things are changing. There are transformation. People are changing the way of narratives. Unlike before, if you want to do something, the people will be moving in the streets and be explaining their own challenges and their strategies. Nowadays, watch the election with Darius Dillon. Did you really know that Dillon had that numbers? I think once upon a time, you and I had a little conversation on that field.
Mm-hmm.
It was somehow unbelievable how the people move in action. They were the silent voters. They were the silent revolutionaries. They were resolved, but they had their resolution intact. Joshua is about to see the unspoken and those unhidden things unsaid in 2023. It is unexpected of him because the people are silent. They are not talking, Phil. You starve our people so that they can beg for bread. You're using the Machiavelli theory on our people. You put our people in hunger so they can stand to McGill door. You put our people in hunger. So Samuel 12 says, the money we're supposed to give you, the people say we should call it. Oh. You heard how the dumb, right? That the dumb thing
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I try to analyze the guys. They sound so funny. And when I reflect on Ellen Johnson said, these mockeries, you don't make it with the people, you get fired. Those days when Ellen was in charge, you cannot make such mockery with the people. The people's power is with you through Ellen Johnson's appointment. And the joker wake up one morning and say, your money. We suppose you know you're supposed to come to the hustle and give us something. The people say, Umakodeo. Yesterday, Samuel 12 was a beggar, man. He had a big brown bag on his shoulder. It was Bwakai, the former assistant minister that formed consultancy for him. And later, he got in touch with his boy Amara Kone. He became the country's economist. Was he really qualified for that job? But it was an open state. Ellen arms were open. Opposition could work with her. It was not winner take all. Today, it is a desperate situation for greed. Winner takes all. Jeopardize our people. Make them hungry. Put them in desperate mood so they can get on the street, so that they can rally behind some group of people at some point in time when they have challenges. I didn't support the insult on the first lady, but as a little girl was gang raped, right? Did you see the people in the street? They did not get in the streets. The people were in the street when the first family got hit
Yeah, I spoke about that too as well.
because they were desperately hungry. $5 US per person, and you think these people won't go in the street? When George Weah told you that the first lady is doing a goodwill for the government through the country's national budget, did you listen to him?
And I have a question on that as well, but I wanted for Mr. Penner to address that question when we get to that point.
I mean, are you kidding me? I read the Joker speech and I just tried to pick up the things that were so naive of a presidency to address to a country. The country's, the taxpayers' money. He said he worked for doing goodwill with the country's taxpayer money. Why, in fact, you haven't even a budget before you're doing goodwill? Where did you get a goodwill from? Is it from some of the ambassadorial endorsement from PSG? Is it that some of the contract he signed with AC Milan and they come to do goodwill with the countries? What is the national budget? A little bit of it before I get out. The national budget is a national tool through which it should affect the impact of the economy through national agenda, Phil. When Ministry of Information made a budget, the guys from PCP made a budget, the guys from Ministry of State, Finance Ministry, Public Works, the budget comes together as an agenda with priorities. And these priorities in cabinet meetings will be endorsed. And when these priorities are endorsed by cabinet members, it goes into action for implementation. I have not seen that being utilized on a George Weah government. They go into action when George Weah is happy. He diverts the country national budget, the amount that's supposed to be utilized for different purpose, to LACE. That's a new money eating area. They call it LACE.
Yeah, controlled by Pepsi Yeke.
Oh yeah, that's a new money eating area. You don't see the thing, Phil? That's a new money eating area.
He's my
They said
friend.
that spent 4.3 million to Douala. Hey man, a way you can pay a visit, man. Does that look like a does that look like a four? Oh my God. Does that look like a does that look like a 4.8 million or whatever?
Go ahead.
Does that look like a 4.8 million? No, but that's a new money chopping area. When procurement shall have been done, it will get diverted to McGill's company. Because after the procurement, by law, there's a 10%. So you calculate the guys who know the numbers, do your mathematics. Under the law, the procurement law, there is a 10% in the contract, legit 10% that comes back to the person who gives her the contract. So Percy gives her the contract 4.2 million, 10% comes back to Percy. Do you think it is his personal money? Don't you know who he's going to report to, Phil? That boy is carrying that money in the XO, Hennessy XO. They're gonna. People are joking with the country's economy.
Let me throw a little light on that, Mr. Minister.
Go ahead, Mr. Penner.
I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I was telling him to go ahead with the procedures of my company. There, he was telling me to go through the government entity to make sure that we can obtain all the necessary documents to be able to procure government contracts. When I refused that, and I said that the reasons why I won't do that is because the system is not responsible enough to be able to deliver to its people. And having some of us involved into it and engaging into it, I know how the back door works. There are procedures in which when you get some of these contracts, whether it's $2,000 or $100,000, will come and give you $500,000 check and the rest of it going there. That's exploitations and abuse to the people. So for that reason, I want to function directly on a clear view where I can deal with the citizenry. So what I'm doing here is I'm depriving myself of the basic business in terms of the Liberian approach, but I want a more standardized approach as to how we can have a transparent form of business and leadership route to our country. So what we need to do now is that I saw you outlining the process as to how bills and budgetaries are passed into the government national budgets. The issue is that government have to have experts. When these things come from the various agencies or entities of governments, it gets to the executive branch that send it out to the, how you call it, the House. Then is being argued upon in order for them to make sense out of it. That's why to see if whether it affects their people directly and have an impact, and some of them they will have more concentrated impact project to see as to how the people can benefit. And all of these things are not reflected into the budgetary, but rather questions or benefit and questions or elevations are being allotted in the budget as to how they can make themselves relevant for re-elections and even future elections and other people that will come right after them. These are things that we're supposed to break down to the people again. The people need education. We have to channel our logic through a more reasonable means so that the ordinary people who don't understand how these things functions, but we yell today that you kill my man, you kill my pa, you know book, you not know book. This time is let us vote our actual interest. And what is our interest? Our interest is something that is fundamentally right. We need to protect our life. We need security to breathe breathe peacefully. We have waters, excess of waters over the place, but we don't have pipe or borne water. And even in this 21st century, Central Moravia, some of us who wanting to help these people, are you imagining that these people are calling for polythene and hand pump? So you can tell me now how they have been drained with the impoverished approach towards their own livelihood. Why you should be advocating for pipe-borne water and advocating for a real electricity, you calling for generator supply and you calling for put a tank so you can go and be opening pump and somebody can be. Those are things that are primitive. We should be gearing in a more positive directions that the 21st century have set a standard. So we have
Yeah,
to be
right.
able to improve the mentality in terms of their concept as to how they view things. So my brother, I stand with you 100%, but I also stand that we take an approach that is more informative, that is more engaging, that is more initiative wise, that will create the kind of platform so our people can be receptive to see things differently rather than us trying to ramble the stuff out. And I think it won't work. It will create more resistance because our people are sentimentally focused. Whether it's
Thank you so
through
much,
party,
Mr.
yeah,
Thank you
go
so
ahead.
much, Mr. Penna. Thank you so much, Mr. Penna and Mr. Bazik. Yeah, so if you just joining us, we are in conversation with Mr. Penna, former president, Liberal Association of Indiana, and the current board chair and the founder of Vision for Success Global. And we are also in conversation with the former deputy minister for technical services at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. And he's the current president of the United Baza Association in the Americas, the Indiana chapter. So we're going to go back to what Mr. Bazigia said when it comes to the first lady having money in our national budget and carry on some charitable work. So we'll be back in 5 seconds, and when we come back, we go straight to Mr. Bazigia. All right, Mr. Bazigia, we'll come back to you. Like you throw light on it, but before we go to what you throw light on, the first lady having money in the budget to carry on charitable work. There's the issue in the president lines. The president talked about agriculture, and he said these in his lines. So the president said the number of commercial farms and agro businesses more than significantly increased from 77 in 2021 to 162 in 2022, 164 in 2022. While there are now dealership of agriculture machinery complete with spare parts workshop. So it can end here because it cannot fit here. That's why I just called it shut that way. So do you think this statement from the president here in his speech, Clifford referred to it as recitation? Do you think it is actually a recitation, or this is real if we have 164 agro businesses and people can either find food to eat or go to bed? So do you think this is a complete recitation or this is an actuality? You are muted, sir.
It's logical fallacies. I mean, there are people who are trained to lie. There are people who are trained to deceive. There are people who are trained to manipulate. The guys in leadership currently, or that have just named, they fall prey to such categories. And the reason being is that a lot of them into strategic position of decision making at the level of the presidency, surrounding the presidency, they are low-minded in their thoughts. So they become unreasonable for the people's struggle, the people's livelihood. How can you talk about commercial agriculture? What's the definition of that? How can they derive at these things? How do they derive at these write-ups and send it to George to read? You know, the last time they were in Bond County going to the various farms, checking on the various different farms and the people that are doing some production, doing planting of cassava and potatoes, akaris and other areas, you know, they were moving around. People, private company, private agriculture areas, they took stats of these things. Government did not support them. Did he attach and then figure to that there was a national agenda engendered by government?
No.
That's the deceptive part. To give a report, analytical report of such It must have not just something being figuratively expressed. It must have the dollars attached, given the essence of dollars value and the national essence of the methodology that are going to give the value of improvement into the agriculture sector. But what they do, they put together the various rhetorics, they sell it to George on the Jamaica resorts. And after everybody finished having the jamboree, they put him in a car, take him to at the legislature, and they said the president is energetic. He stood for 2 hours plus. What does that mean for the Liberian people if the president is standing for 2 hours? How does that put bread on the table of the Liberian people if the president stands for 2 hours? How does that impact the lives of the people for them to pay their rent when the president is standing for 2 hours? How does that affect the people for them to get a better living condition, for security to be some of the greatest need, for they to be protected because the president stayed for 2 hours? That was something they were running with on Facebook. An old woman like Ellen Johnson said he could stand more than 3 to 4 hours. You know, the party people didn't care for that. The message, what is the different trajectory or the transition in the economy that the people care for? These were the things that people used to be listening to. And the guys took over, and what they took away from the legislature, that George Weah stood for 2 hours. Phil, you didn't hear that?
I heard that.
That was something they were moving around the streets. George Weah got energy. He stood for 2 hours. The last time I checked, corruption is at the agriculture ministry. Phil, you didn't hear that?
I heard that.
The same place you could grade and you could give that analysis that you are 77% or 77 group of people in your analysis, you're doing better. And then 2 days after 77, okay, increased to 77 from 2021 to 164 in 2022. So help me God. And the next day, the Minister of Agriculture and the entire team in Corruption Watch, they are still there. They are still sitting right there. There is no investigation going on because the people committing the crime, they are privileged to a corrupt system. They are partners in crime, organized crime. They blew alarm to manipulate and deceive the people. So they blew alarm. And that's the unforeseen circumstances of our Liberian people. The silent voters, the silent revolutionaries, the silent people in their homes. They will move in action, Phil. Tomorrow we will come on the same radio and you will tell on the Logan show that the people have moved in action. In 2020, I'm making reference to 2020 when the Darius Dillon had nothing in his pocket. The silent voters, they move in action. They made him senator. They hurt George Weah hard. If they can hurt George Weah so badly when he was in the streets campaigning, and of course, losing in West Point. Yeah. And then he was losing in Nickeltown. Yes. He was losing in Logan Town. In 2020, the elections results, not my numbers.
Yeah.
George Weah will be hurt by the silent voters. The revolutionaries will move in actions. The people will revolt. They got a resolution. Our citizen got a 2023 resolution. Get this for me today. The resolution is a change of regime. George Weah will be a one-term president. If Kia is not taken, he will be persecuted. Because for sure, McGill, Nathaniel McGill, and Samuel Tour, they are only waiting for the orange suit. It's just time. But George needs to be careful before he follow the men to the same place they've been taking the other brothers and putting them in jail. They got to be careful.
All right,
So
let's go. Go ahead. Let's go to Mr. Pennon just to get his take on this. Mr. Pennon, so this is the question here.
No, I think I addressed that question earlier before he came on. But
with agriculture, Not yet.
Yeah, we spoke. No, you spoke about it in the president address, and you spoke about the agriculture and the security sector, that everything
Oh
was doing
yes.
great, and threw a lot on it. But to add
Go
on to
ahead.
what the minister said,
Mm-hmm.
we got to be more factual when it comes to breaking these things down as Liberians, and to not to critique it, but to throw a light on what the president said about the Liberian agriculture sector. I think there is a report from the African Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they said that economically speaking, the Liberian economy can, I think up to now, they cannot even produce a whole day meal for a citizen. So that means that the people are producing half cup of rice per citizen in Liberia. And if they are producing half cup of rice a day, then that means that if Liberia is dependent on rice and they do not have full control in terms of I got a surplus to serve their need, then that means that we are not functioning right in that agriculture sector. And speaking of the inability of the agriculture sector, that is still going on improvement by the Ministry of Agriculture and all of these things, it needs to be looked at. I understand that the position is more of a patronage position, is based on political interest, but all of these things have to be reviewed, and the citizens have to speak out, because there are lawmakers who are from the agriculture or sector part of the country. So they should be able to focus on that, to pass a bill that will budget a huge amount that will focus on the agriculture sector, so it can have a more impact as to how the citizen benefit from that. That would be my suggestions to the lawmakers and the governing body of Liberia.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Pena. So we just go back to Mr. Basikia because he threw some light on the president wife ban having monies in the budget. So there's this key part of this whole conversation that grabbed my attention, because the president, this is what I saw the president saying in that his speech, and it is posted on the e-mansion website. He said, although this old folks home was built with funds raised by the Clark Hope Foundation, I have learned from a reliable source that they intend to turn the building over to the relevant government agency. So it means the president wasn't sure of that. The president was speculating in his annual message that he learned. What do you make of that, Mr. Bazigia? You are
He's
muted,
muted.
sir.
You are muted, sir.
Phil, you know a butterfly cannot be a bird. You know that. The guys who come to him and gave him all these information, they know that they are not doing justice. They keep deceiving him. But at the end of the day, when he goes home and gets a little bit sober, he realizes that some of the things that he says out there, it hurts his character. It hurts his character in the sense that how can you even mention that you heard somebody told you on a second party, unit 001, the highest seat of the country, you should be speaking facts. Anything comes from the president or from the presidency, it is a policy statement in any country in the world. So when you go at the national legislature, the first thing you misinform the people that the Clark Hole Foundation. Where are they getting the money from? Where do they raise the money from? Did they reference anything in that particular annual message on where the money is being raised?
No.
When we get grant from the German people, it is mentioned, right?
Yep.
When we get grant from China, it is mentioned where the Clark get the grant from Doria's office. Our country taxpayer money. So now Liberians are giving grant to the first lady because she has a foundation and she goes about doing charity for the country. The Clark Hole Foundation, he learns that she's doing some building and she will turn it over to the rightful authority. Who are those that he referred to as the rightful authority that are not in the know of the usage of their finances? Our citizens have been exploited every day. So the first family having a saving bank through the first lady. So George didn't even need to get paid. For the next 6 years, the first family will be rich through the first lady, because Liberians are doing donation to the first lady because she runs a foundation. I try to pick the sense in the kinds of narrative he presents to educated people. People far not educated than a young man. He goes to them and gives them misrepresentation. How can you go to the legislature far not educated people? I mean, I'm not talking about those honorary doctor degrees, because Ellen got 15. Phil, do you know?
Yeah.
Ellen got 15 on the team, but and the people get 2 on the team. They already added it to the knee. Ellen never used a doctor degree. No day. She was always referred to as a Harvard trained. Unfortunately, we are in a very flamboyant society right now that people think that honorary unto them is a title that they have achieved for the country's purposes. But what's happening to Liberia today? We are at the red lines. We are in a red zone. The country democratically is defaulting. We will rally our people. We will keep talking to them. We will send the message across in a very, very polite manner. But guess what? There's a resolution that waiting, George. We are in 2023. It's a silent resolution, unseen resolution. It is not yet written, Phil. So George doesn't feel it. He's still making speeches. He said, when the people do anything in this country, they call George Weah name. Because I go play basketball, you reduce the presidency to chichi pole. Anything the people say, you talking after them. He keeps repeating people. You remember the scenario with Lone Star?
Mm-hmm.
He needs to stop repeating people. He needs to start speaking the same thing, the same languages the people use. He might let them make mistake again at the presidency and use the wrong word. It might be the vocal word, because of his inability to allow him pass his ears. He always want to repeat people. I heard Rick saying this about me. He repeated perfect key. An insignificant man roaming around the place got significant at the highest seat of the office. From that day when he mentioned perfect key, he was a spotlight. He doesn't see it. George Weah the celebrity. George Weah the president. The difference between George and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf have her eyes on the ball. Key focus and understanding of the rightful things that she's supposed to do to give life back to the people, security, infrastructure, everything they talk about Liberia today. And I hear people talking about infrastructure. These were standards set by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. These were standards set by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And they were implemented. Today, they talk about the RIA. But you know the story. The ministerial complex. You know the story. The building that they call the MPA. They're celebrating the MPA. That was an endorsement, cabinet endorsement, that building. You know, they don't read. They didn't look at the turnover notes we left with them. That's one of the things that rot in the government. I'm telling you for real, Avi. They did not read the turnover notes. Sometimes I'm looking in my email and looking at my turnover notes, and I say, how did they see this?
Mr. Minister, let me come in.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. So go ahead, Arvin, on that
Yeah,
question, please.
back to the budget aspect of which you said that the chairlady is being
The first lady
funded.
of the Republic of Liberia.
Yeah, the first lady is being financed through the budgetary of Liberia.
And the president is speculating in his annual report. He's not sure that this building will be donated or given to the Liberian government. He's saying he learned from a reliable source. So to the point where even if this building is not given to the Liberian authority, he will say, but I wasn't speaking for real here. I say I learned from somebody that told me. Who told you?
The president has to be a the minister is mute. I think he's saying
What
something.
happens,
So
Minister?
I think maybe that penalty, each penalty.
So the man is my big brother, but speaking facts, the president and a leader is supposed to be a generalist in terms of being more informed as to how to abreast the country of its state of affairs and how things unfold so that other countries and other governing bodies can take his leadership seriously and rate it at a more dignified uh, periscope. Now, when it comes to the budget aspect, I think they also put in something there for the former president. Now, when you're talking about goodwill, these things supposed to be done by generosity by the individuals, having the ability to lobby through to see as to how they can bring fundings to the table, not using the people own sweat. It's like you give me $1 million to work around your own affairs. Then I turn around and acting like to say I'm using that money to compensate you. It don't make no logical sense. So when I said that we should be able to take a more reasonable approach as to how we questions our government, because even when a budget is presented, it has to go under scrutiny as to how these allotments are made and to what impact. You understand? Because you want accountability and transparency. You just don't want to edify or modify the character of an individual because you have relationship with them. You understand me? There are good-hearted Liberians that are in Liberians that have the how you got the non-for-profit groups, and they are strongly and calling white people and other people outside the continent and even in the country Liberia for assistance, and they assisting people. You understand me? And there are institutions and good non-for-profit organizations, even in the US, owned by Liberians that are even helping people there. But you give government money to some of the high-rated and high-class Liberians, and you say that they're doing good for you and you are receptive and you're passing all around the place. So this is what I want us to logicalize and make sure that all of these things have to be brought to the table as to how we inform our people, and then moving forward, our people can make the right decisions. And then the people who supposed to be able to put their fortitude into some of these decisions making at the legislature level, so that they can understand their role play very well. You understand me? Because of most of them call themselves representatives. They are just mere members of parliament, because representation means that you should be able to deliver to the tax need given to you by the people, and the people are properly and adequately benefiting from your representation. Then you become a representative. Other than that, you are just a member of parliament that just sitting over things, and you call
But
yourself the oversight.
Mr. Pena, when you listen to other countries' presidents speak when they are giving their annual messages, they give some practical examples. They ask people in the audience who have benefited from the government immense treatment to them, and ask them to stand up and say, hey, you see this person, you see John Brown, due to the government who initiated, John Brown was this and he's this. But now the president threw numbers up there, and the president, even imagine Donald Trump or Joe Biden coming to the stands and say, oh, I learned my wife foundation would be from a reliable source, would be donating so and so. It's not. So how do you think the citizens are supposed to take that if that was never done? Would they hold the president accountable, or would they say the president was speaking from the boroughheads? Because the president almost like saying, that's what I heard. So if she didn't do it, she didn't have to.
Yeah, but
so
then
before that script, before that line was going to be in the president's speech, that should have been well vetted, and the president sleep with his wife every night. So why would he learn from a reliable source when he's the first person supposed to get the first-hand information?
with the exception of the president sleeping with his wife, the president has a personal relationship with his wife, and he also takes the gullibility of the Liberians into consideration. A more responsible government, including a well-refined government, have a debriefers that brief the president on how he should approach and address issues of such kind.
Okay.
You understand? You will not just go ahead and start speaking things that will not make sense and will not resonate to the rest to the citizens and the people who are also an observer or investors into that country. You
Okay.
understand me? So you will now look at the level of dignity that we bring to leadership. From there, I don't want to ridicule it because it's the Liberians that we will resort to. How do Liberians perceive leadership? How do they grade leadership? Do they take it at the height? Do we appreciate the kind of leaders that we have with all of what they are doing or using self glorification, pondering the law to correct it, to edify themselves and present themselves as guardian angels and how will you call them, Mother Lisa children? So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. The government should be having impact using the people taxes to benefit the very people, but not using the people money and using it as a means of goodwill. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
So this is what we need to all sit at the round table to discuss and make sense out of it. So at least people outside the governing body and other people who have interest into our leadership system can say that okay, we have some people who are bringing in fortitude and analyzing things critically and wants to have a more positive developmental impact on their country as to how things go from the common denominators to the people who runs the state of affairs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Panel. So I can see from Mr. Basigia eyes when he look at you and looking at your current ambition, district number 8, representative hopeful. He just see Mr. Basigia. I can see from the man eyes like Panel is in the middle. I'm not in the middle. I'm taking a side.
Yeah, you know,
So,
if,
Mr. Basigia, let's just address this last question before we can leave because we have 3 more minutes to be here. So this is I will just ask for your response to be very short, and I will go to Mr. Penham for his response to be very short. We saw Mr. Clifford Russell in this day and age, 2022. He have to be in the diet and on the talk show. So now, with the president in his annual message, he said this. He said, electricity. Since 2018, total household connected to the electricity grid has increased by more than 260%, from more than 49,000 customers in 2018 to about 130,000 customers by December of 2021.
I
And
mean,
looking, go ahead.
Phil, yeah, I got a question already. I know the doers of that rating, and there are some sycophants. They were around us during our time, and Ellen used to chastise them on her farm because she didn't like lies. The former minister of lands and mines, Sendolo, he had a little understanding. He was chairman of the board of LEC,
Mm-hmm.
so he used to get updates on what happened in that LEC. People misapply their little understanding and their reading skills on things that's supposed to really matters. Can you imagine somebody just putting off figure and they think that figure will impact? I mean, from 49,000 customer to 130,000 customer, how does that bring electricity, Phil? You call it numbers. You can connect wire. You talk about connection, right? You talk about connecting people houses. We had the same thing on an old road. Connection of wires is different from electrifying. He did not say in that speech that 130,000 households receiving electricity. They are customers. And of course, they register, but they are not receiving electricity simply because there's a downturn in the supply of electricity because of ineffectiveness, inefficiency, non-productivity, and the ineptitude for a person who is managing the LEC. I mean, we rebuild the hydro. Are they really utilizing the hydro? They are still running on machines. So because of that, you have people with the lack of the technical know-how, giving the president numbers on the basis of connections or on the basis of customers' receptions, on the basis of the number of people that attend to LEC office every day. You know that process with receptionists, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
go to the receptionist and you ask Akin to see the LEC boss and they send you to the customer service department, they're going to take note on your name. That's data review. And these numbers that were taken down, like John Paul came here yesterday, he asked to be registered. They put you in the data. Rex Basiga came here day before yesterday. He asked to be registered. He was coded in the system. His wire has already been sent to him. We will carry his poll the next day. He's placed in the data. How can the presidency be speaking in this manner, Phil? Without no outright specific understanding of how the country is electrified, how can 49,000 people or 49,000 customers transition into 130,000 customers manifest into electricity? Does that mean the people have current? Even the guy who was just on the phone or who just came in, my boy Click, his house is connected. Do you know? Yeah, his house is connected. Does he have electricity? No. So that's the thing we're talking about. George should be able to tell the Liberian people, I have electrified the entire Monserrado County. I have electrified the entire Grand Bassa. 130,000 from 4.5 million people. Phil, you imagine the president, even Shiba. You talk about 4.5 million people. Chemepeno. Look at, I mean, that period of 4.5 million people, but they got over 130,000 in celebrating it. Who will put that kind of thing in annual message, man? That is shameless. That is shameless, Phil. I
Okay,
mean,
that's good.
he didn't get that part.
All right, I go to Mr. Pena. Mr. Pena, what do you make of that? The question is right there.
I saw the question and I listened to the speech.
All
And I
right.
must say I'm also facing the same problem. At my office, I send the people there to the whether they go by your connection, and I said no, we'll be corrupting the system, and we don't want that kind of approach when we are effecting positive change. And some of them told me, but boss man, the thing here will not go through because the people at that place there, they are corrupt and we got to do it the Liberian way. So I said, no, we can't do it the Liberian way. So I pay for the meter, I pay for the wiring and everything. And as I speak up to now, they have not even went there to connect the area. Now, when we're speaking of development, we're speaking of it at a much more preferable and higher percentage wherein the people can have the impact. When you're talking about development, that is not development. It's not, I don't know if whether it's even equivalent to a village electrification if we're speaking about electrifying an area. So that means that if the president is addressing a nation and he's speaking about 100 and change and not even up to 500 houses that are fully electrified.
Yeah.
And you want serious people and serious country to take it. I'm not ridiculing the speech. I'm also speaking to the Liberian people who are receptive to the
Even if
speech
you read
and
it,
they say,
you write to who writes that? Who put that kind of thing
no,
in their paper?
no, what I'm saying is because when you sit and someone is speaking nonsense or speaking rubbish, you yourself who know better, you will be gearing to know better and right the wrong. And if Liberians are more receptive to this thing, and after the speech they were all yelling and singing all over the place, then that means that things are well. So that means that you look at the directions of their mind and their opinions and their behavior. So all of these things. So coming back to this kind of development, when I said first that you cannot judge the fish by inability of climbing the tree, it's like wasting water on Dover back. If you know that the child cannot identify what goal is, and you put goal in the child hand, what will the child do with the goal? So you'll be sitting that whole day, you blaming the child, say, oh, that child, I fool the child, I get the child my goal, and the child taking and flooding in the camo, and because of that, now next time then you look for someone who knows what goal is and know how to use goal. You understand?
I'll come back to you shortly. We have Mr. Sele want to contribute.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Sele, go ahead, sir. Mr. Sele, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been following the show. First of all, thanks to my brother here in studio, both Riggs and Arvin. I'm a pro-unity party man. No, on the other side, you know. So
you're not in the middle, like
no,
Arvin.
That's the first thing we never been in the middle. But we are even making it easy. So we are making our decision very easier for us not to even think of that because it just means that unity party is the best option. But you know, Riggs is very, very articulative about Unity Party success, JMB 2023. But there's a fear factor that most of real Unity Party people are not looking at here. And the fear is to win Georgia in a single round in an elections. It's very difficult. We have to consider that fact. This is not a show win scenario we have on our hand. We need the collaboration of the CPP to win the elections. And with the CPP in a complete disarray right now, we are my capital last on that to win 2023 elections. As much as we think that we can still play the puzzle around to win, we also have to consider that we have to do a lot of work to win the next election. So I want to make clarity on that, because most time when we talk we speak body and show, but we don't consider other factors that will make us to beat a defeating party. Now, when you see most of the things that are going on in Liberia, while the CPP are going to court and doing other things, it is also clear that we are using all of these logistics and the finances to campaign before the election. So I just want for Brother Vicks to stress on that, because you can be speaking not giving some of the highlights of where the possibility comes from, but you're just saying we are sure. So can he give 1 or 2 or 3 points wherein we can make a difference to win Georgia, even if the CPP fall apart? Because that is why the problem is. If the CPP fall apart, is it possible we can still win the next election 2023? We as Unity Party. I want for you to throw a lot on that before he can give.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Jeremiah Saleh. All right, so guys, thank you. We have been here for more than an hour. So, Mr. Basigia, when you doing your party, you just throw light on that. So, can I just go to you guys for your party, Mr. Basigia? Can you just take at least 2 minutes in your party, sir?
Yeah, that's 120 seconds, and I can conclude in there. Thank you. And so that's a very good point there, Dr. Silly made. I mean, the inquiry is necessary, and I will give him some numbers so he can research it. I mean, with the entire CPP, check neck results 2017, Joseph Boaga had 400,000 plus votes. Kumi is 100 and some more thousand change and below. ALP is something around not even 20,000. And Liberty Party is somewhere around 100,000. So even if you make the deductions and get those numbers out on the usual analytical elections numbering and actions and how people come up with results, Elections Commission informed us that we already got 400,000 plus in our baggage, that we keep it. Moving towards elections, our people are disenchanted. Georgia did not justify to the people that he can win, that he can govern the country. Because of his ineptitude, the numbers have increased. And most of the people that will be going to the ballot boxes this time around, they will not be partisans. They will be sincere Liberians that will be going to the ballot boxes to engender a change, a revolution, like they did with Darius did in 2020. The best option that they feel to make that change and to create a stable economy and infrastructure, road networking, and make sure that Liberia get back to safety zone is Joseph Human Boakai. He will be pillaring the candle. He will light the candle for 2 to 3 years, going to 4 years. And then he will transition to a generation that will move forward. But in the absence of Joseph Human Boakai, with that huge constituency of 400,000 votes, you cannot beat Joshua. So yes, we can win Joshua in the absence of the CPP. The CPP was just a utilized vehicle tool that we tried to put together to conscientize the Liberian people to make sure that we were together. But now that we feel that some people, they carry their personal feelings towards this ambition, we can keep them far away. Unity Party can go to this election, and the Liberian people resolution in 2023 will yield fruit. So yes, we can win this election in the absence of CPP. Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much, Honorable Race W. Basigia. We want to say thank you for always making this place your home. We look forward to seeing you again. We'll have more time. Like today, we should have more time, but due to changing the venue, so we were not able to have this show started by 3:30. So thank you so much, my dear brother. Thank you for joining us tonight. So let's go to Mr. Alvin Pena. Mr. Alvin Pena, can we have 2 minutes for your parting, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Logan. I appreciate the invite, and I appreciate the listeners who took the time to hear some of us out. Now, I hear you repeatedly saying that I'm playing a much more neutral role in terms of how I address the issues of the state of affairs. At these particular junctions, as the minister just said in his closing statement at the very end, he said that the patriot Liberian or the patriotic Liberians will be casting their vote void of political party. Now, the disenchantment is not aligned with which party you belongs to. It aligns with the general deprivations that the people are faced with. So because of that, I'm looking at it from a cross-cut political views means that gathering thoughts, supports, informations, moving forward to be more nationalistic, whether it belongs to a party or not, you should take into considerations your livelihood and issues that is affecting your security and your economic affairs in the country. And that said, we have to also take into consideration what you call the political identity. So that means that we do not tribalize it, we do not or religionize it, but we bring in the real situations that we are faced with, and based on that, we can make a more logical decisions as to how we affect change in a more positive direction, but not creating a means of violence or chaos or using rhetorics to cajole the people, but using the real situations to address them. So speaking to the intelligence of the people, that's where I stand to address most of the issues. So I thank you very much. I hope Liberians will activate their sense of reasoning this time around and make decisions based on their interest in terms of their economic status, their security, their future, the futures of their children, those who are living in the slum and repeatedly living in the slum, those who lack healthcare system and all of these things, make decisions to bring people who are seeing things above the current situation and can have positive impact in some of the livelihood or undertakings in the country. So thank you very much, and thank you for this platform. I appreciate you. You should open, I think sometimes you should open a donation or line so at least we can be able to contribute to see as to how you can upkeep this. I think it's going up, and I will also suggest that some of these interviews you should also align with some of the radio stations back home so that they can be able to air them, so at least they can see your good work and see as to what logic we are bringing to the table, so Liberians can be able to listen to some of us. Thank you.
I'm working on that as well. So thank you, Mr. Pena. The next time you see Mr. Pena here, he's going to be discussing strictly the issue confronting the people of District Number 8. Because today when you saw he posted, people of his district went to his office, his district office, and they were doing some significant work and they were in huge numbers. And because this was in the conversation, so I couldn't just allow him to come in with District Number 8 project. But notwithstanding, the next time you see Mr. Pena, get ready to know about District Number 8 and get ready to know the problems that people are confronted with.
Then I will take off my gloves.
Maybe somebody going to ask you the question right here, which side are you on? Then boom. And once you take a side in these kind of elections, when you go in as a representative hopeful or represent other aspiring, you know the party, CDC pulling voting for you. CDC, you know the party pulling voting for you. Neutral, you can collect it from everywhere. So you can decide which one you're going to take.
I know. We appreciate the cross-cutting approach, and then we'll see how we can bring the people to the table. You know, for me, I love good things. So those who have good reasoning, let them come through.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Pena, for always joining us, man. We look forward to you again.
My appreciation.
Thank you so much. So if you just joining us, you are on the Logan's Hour. We have been here for an hour and a plus now, and we cannot spend any more meeting here. We were unable to take calls because I'm running for my next meeting right now. I have meeting with the Indiana Young Men Association. You all know I'm the president of the Indiana Young Men Association, so I have to go. The meeting started since 6 o'clock because of the love I have for you and the love I have for the community as well. So we couldn't just go through too many things tonight. So it's already 6:16. I want to say peace. I love you. All those are always coming up here, commenting or even just liking the program. Go to Logan's Hours page, or sometimes if you're using your phone, you really can use your phone and be driving and doing some other stuff, or your phone answering calls. Your worries are easy. Just go right to YouTube and just click Logan's Hour. And trust me, this is the catch 22. If you're looking for hoodies, if you're looking for any kind of clothes, don't look for any other brand. Go straight and look for Seconds. Women clothes, men clothes, whatever clothes you want. If you're looking for your own Liberian sister, she has done this. It work. We have tested it, and a lot of people wearing it. White, black, yellow, green. Everybody dealing with Seconds. Go Seconds. Don't say I tell you. At the Liberian Association Valentine's Day's Ball, we're going to have some Seconds shirt. We're going to have some Seconds hoodie. Come and patronize your own Liberian sisters, and we're going to be calling names. So we're going to do it the draft face. We're going to say, John Brown. You say, yeah. You say, please come up, come up. Can you patronize 1 second sweater? Thank you for joining us. We have to go for our next meeting. We love you. Peace and good night.